I realized the family dinner was actually an ambush the second I saw the clipboard on my mother's coffee table and the fact that nobody had set any plates, just chairs, all of them pulled into a neat little circle like a talk show set. My sister sitting with her ankles crossed and a manila folder in her lap, my ex-husband on the love seat looking like he wanted to be anywhere else, and my 15-year-old son wedged between his grandmother and my brother like a prop. "What is this?" I asked, still holding the potato salad I'd made because I thought we were doing pot roast and small talk, not whatever this was. My voice came out too bright, too shaky. I set the bowl down because my fingers were slick with sweat. "Mom," I said. "What's going on?" My mother smoothed the front of her cardigan like she was about to lead a church meeting, not dismantle my life. "Sit down, Jenny," she said, using the tone I remembered from being 12 and arguing about curfew. "We need to talk to you about some concerns we have." My stomach dropped, my eyes flicked to my son, Noah. He wouldn't look at me, just stared at his hands. My ex, Paul, pressed his lips together, staring at a spot on the wall above my mother's head. My little brother, Dave, avoided my gaze entirely, picking at a loose thread on the armchair. My sister, Kim, met my eyes head-on, a glint of something like triumph flickering for just a second before she rearranged her face into a mask of concern. "What kind of concerns?" I asked, even though I already knew, not the specifics but the shape of it because I'd felt it closing in around me for months, that creeping sense that everyone knew something about me I didn't, like there was a group chat somewhere with my name in the title and a story about me I wouldn't recognize. "We're worried about you," my mom began, which in my family has never once meant anything good. "About your drinking, about your moods, about how all of this is affecting Noah." She said his name like he wasn't sitting right there. "What drinking?" I said, the words coming out harsher than I intended. "I have a glass of wine some nights, that's hardly—" "Jenny," Kim interrupted, that condescending big sister whose years younger voice she perfected at 16 and never let go of. "We're not doing this, okay? We're past the point of denial. We've all seen the bottles, we've seen the texts, we've heard the way you talk to Noah when you're not yourself." She tapped the folder in her lap, the sound of her nails on the cardboard making my skin crawl. "We've documented everything." Documented. The word made the room tilt. My mother nodded, reaching for the clipboard. "We didn't want it to come to this," she said, though the neatness of the papers and the way the chairs were arranged suggested she'd wanted exactly this. "But you've refused to listen one-on-one, you always get defensive, so we thought maybe as a family, we could help you see what's happening before something really terrible does." "Before something really terrible," I repeated slowly, like if I said it back it would make more sense. "Like what?" My voice cracked. "Like you losing your temper and hurting Noah," Mom said flatly, and I swear I felt something in my chest physically tear. I laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. "I have never laid a hand on my kid," I said, my voice shaking now. "And you know that." "Emotional harm is harm too," Kim said softly, the way a dentist might say. "This might sting a little, before drilling into your nerve." She opened the folder and pulled out a stack of papers. "We printed some of the messages," she said, "just so you can see what we're seeing." She handed the stack to me and my name stared back from the top of the page above a bubble of text I had never sent in my life. "I swear to God, if you roll your eyes at me again, I will put my hands on you and you'll remember it." It said, green eye message bubble, timestamped 11:37 p.m. Noah's name at the top of the screen. My thumbprint tightened around the paper. "What is this?" I whispered, my throat sandpaper. "That's not." "Don't lie, Mom," Noah blurted, finally looking up, his cheeks flushed, his eyes glossy. "You had your phone, you were in the kitchen, I was in my room, you were mad about the math grade, you said." He stopped, biting his lip. My mind scrambled. I did remember the math grade, the late-night argument, me standing in the hallway yelling that I was tired of being the only one who cared if he failed. I remembered saying things I regretted like, "Do you want to end up like your father?" And, "I'm not your enemy, I'm the one staying." But I hadn't said that line, I hadn't threatened him, my anger had always been loud, messy, never sharp in that way. "I didn't text that," I said, my voice shaking. "Noah, I didn't. I was standing in your doorway, I was right there. Why would I text you from 10 feet away? Because you were drunk, Dave said quietly, his first words all evening. You could barely stand up. I was not drunk, I snapped, the word cracking in the air. I'd had one beer during the game Dave won. We saw the recycling bin, Mom said. The neighbors saw the recycling bin. My head snapped toward her. What? You had 3 wine bottles in there last Tuesday alone, she said. And that was just what you bothered to recycle, Janet from next door mentioned. Are you actually quoting the neighbor who thinks everyone who doesn't mow on Thursdays is a drug dealer? I asked, a wild edge creeping into my voice. And you're calling me crazy? Nobody called you crazy, Kim said. We're just worried. She nodded at the clipboard. And we've spoken to someone who can help. That's when I saw the last nail in the trap. A set of legal-looking forms, crisp and white, clipped neatly behind Mom's notes, the heading at the top of the page reading Temporary Guardianship Agreement. My vision tunneled. What is that? I asked, my finger jabbing at the paper. Mom took a deep breath, as if she'd practiced this in the mirror. Ginny, all we're asking is that you take a step back and get some real help, she said. Sign this, let Noah stay with Kim and Matt for a while, maybe 6 months, a year, however long it takes. You can go to a program, you can focus on your mental health, we'll handle school, sports, day-to-day stuff, no pressure. No pressure, like they were offering to water my plants, not take my child. You want me to sign over my son, I said, each word heavy. Because you think I had 3 bottles of wine? Paul finally spoke, his voice low. It's not just the alcohol, Jen, he said. It's the mood swings, the way you scream, the holes in the wall, the missed pickups. What missed pickups? I demanded, rounding on him. I have never once. Last month's soccer practice, he said. Coach had to call me, you never showed. Because you never told me practice was moved up an hour. I shot back, the memory sharp. You texted my work phone after 5, I was in a meeting, by the time I saw it, it was over. We talked about this, you apologized. You're proving our point right now, Kim cut in. You're always so sure it's everyone else, never you. I looked at Noah, at my boy who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms and whisper that I was his safe place. Now staring at me like he wasn't sure which version of me was real. The room felt too small, the air thick. Somewhere under the humiliation and rage, a cold, clear part of my brain whispered that they'd been building this brick by brick for a long time. How long have you been planning this? I asked quietly, that part of me taking the wheel. This intervention, this paperwork? Mom flinched just a flicker. It's not about planning, she said. It's about responding to the reality of the situation. How long? I pressed, my voice low. Dangerous in a way that made even Kim shift in her seat. She looked at Paul, then at Dave, then at Noah like she was waiting for backup. We've been talking about your behavior for a while, Paul admitted. Since, I don't know, January. It was June now, 6 months of them talking about my behavior. Without me, 6 months of mysterious cold shoulders and weird looks that suddenly made too much sense. So that group chat really is about me, I said, the words out before I could stop them. Kim's head snapped up. What group chat? She demanded too fast. My heart pounded. I hadn't meant to reveal my hand that quickly, but it was out there now. The one on Noah's iPad, I said, watching her face. Family check-in, cute name, with you, Mom, Paul, sometimes Dave, all very concerned about protecting Noah from the chaos in that townhouse and building a paper trail. Ring any bells? Mom's hand flew to her chest. You read our private messages? She gasped, as if that were the crime in the room. They were about me and my child, I snapped. You were talking about calling CPS on me to speed things up, and how once Noah is settled with you, the court will see she's not stable. You don't get to clutch pearls about privacy now, Dave muttered. You weren't supposed to see that. Under his breath, which told me everything I needed to know. So this is what this is, I said, looking at the guardianship forms again. The fear in my chest solidifying into something hotter, cleaner. You're not here because you think I'm going to hurt my kid. You're here because you want him, and you want my house, and you can't stand that I moved back here and didn't fall apart the way you expected me to. That is not fair, Kim snapped, color rising in her cheeks. Matt and I have a 4-bedroom house. What would we even do with your little place? Rent it out, I said. Use the income to support Noah, like you said in the chat, or maybe help Mom finally retire. Remember that line. Mom flushed. I have done nothing but help you since you left that marriage, she said, tears springing to her eyes on cue. I co-signed your lease, I watched Noah so you could work, I bought groceries when your card. And I've paid you back. I cut in. Every cent plus interest, and somehow I'm still the charity case in every story you tell. Listen, Paul said, his palms up like he was the reasonable one. Nobody is trying to steal Noah, Jen, we just want him to be safe. And you need help, you're not yourself. I am more myself than I have ever been, I said, my voice steadying. And I am not signing anything. Mom's eyes hardened, the crocodile tears gone in an instant. If you refuse to cooperate, we will have no choice but to involve the courts, she said. We have all this documented, the messages, the neighbors' statements, the CPS report. What CPS report? I demanded, ice crawling up my spine. You had a wellness check last month, remember? Kim said, tilting her head. Noah told us the social worker came by. My mind flashed back to 2 weeks ago, a woman with a clipboard at my door. We got an anonymous call just doing a routine check, she'd said, looking around my perfectly normal, slightly messy living room, asking Noah a few questions about whether he felt safe, whether anyone at home drank too much. She said it was a random survey. I whispered more to myself than to them. She lied, Kim said calmly. She was being kind. We called because we're worried. You weaponized CPS against me, I said, the words tasting like acid. You used the system that's supposed to protect kids to build your little case. Noah let out a strangled sound. You were drunk that night, he blurted. You were in your room with the door locked. I had to make my own dinner, Grandma said. I was on a Zoom training until 7, I said, shaking now. You were on the Xbox the whole time. I ordered pizza. You literally ate half of it on the couch, Noah. He opened his mouth, closed it, confusion flickering over his face. Grandma said. He stopped, looking at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Mom stood up, the chair scraping. That's enough, she said, her voice sharp. We're going in circles. Jenny, you are clearly not ready to accept reality. But this doesn't change our responsibility. We will be contacting the court, and when they see the pattern, they will see we did the right thing. Then I guess I'll see you there, I said, my hand suddenly very still, that cold, clear part of me taking over completely. Come on, Noah, we're leaving. He's staying, Mom said, stepping in front of him, her small frame somehow filling the room. Temporarily until things are sorted out. The hell he is, I said, my voice dropping. I'd never cursed in front of my mother like that growing up, but apparently there's a first time for everything. I looked at Noah, really looked at him, the fear, the uncertainty, the way his eyes darted between us like he was watching tennis. Do you want to come home with me? I asked, forcing my voice gentle. He hesitated, his lower lip trembling. I don't want you and Grandma to fight, he whispered. I don't want anyone to be mad. They're already mad, I said softly. This isn't about you, bud, it's about me, and I promise you, no matter what they say, you are not the reason this is happening. But I need to know right now, do you want to come home with me? He swallowed hard, then nodded just once, his hand trembling as he reached for his backpack. Mom grabbed his arm, nails biting into his hoodie. Noah, sweetie, we talked about this, she said. You said you didn't feel safe when your mom yells, remember? I never said I wasn't safe, he protested, pulling away. You said that, you said you were scared for me. Because I am, she snapped, then caught herself, smoothing his sleeve. I just want what's best for you, darling, you know that. I stepped between them, my pulse roaring. Back off, I said quietly. You don't get to manhandle my kid to make your point. Kim stood too. We can call the police, she warned. Tell them you're taking him against professional advice. Please do, I said, pulling my phone out. And while we're at it, we can ask them what they think about using fake text messages and embellished neighbor gossip to build a case. We can show them the messages where you talk about making me look unstable. I've got screenshots, Kim. Did you really think I wouldn't save them once I saw the chat? Her face drained of color. You're twisting everything, she said. You always twist everything. Projection is a hell of a drug, I muttered, then took Noah's hand. We're going, I said. If any of you come near my door without a court order, I will call the police myself. We left to a chorus of my mother's threats and Kim's hissing accusations, my heart pounding so hard I could barely see straight. Noah silent beside me, gripping his backpack strap like a lifeline. It wasn't until we were in the car, doors closed, the world muffled, that he finally spoke. Are you mad at me? He asked, his voice small. For talking to them? My heart broke all over again. No, I said immediately, turning to face him. Noah, no, this isn't on you, okay? Adults should not put you in the middle like that. That was wrong. You did nothing wrong by telling people when you were scared or confused. That's what kids are supposed to do. What they did with that information is on them, not you. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded, blinking hard. Grandma said if I told anyone about you yelling, they could help, he whispered. I didn't know. I didn't know it would be like this. I know, I said, my throat tight. I know, baby. That night, after Noah was finally asleep on the couch, a Pixar movie looping quietly in the background because neither of us could handle silence, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and my phone and every scrap of documentation I had, the secret chat screenshots, the photos of the recycling bin Kim had so helpfully texted to Mom with captions like, "Told you this is out of control." The messages where my mother said things like, "We have to wait until she blows up again, then we'll call." My hands shook as I forwarded everything to my personal email, to a newly created folder on an external drive, to a cloud account with a password no one in my family could guess. I Googled family law attorney covert manipulation guardianship, staring at the search results until the words blurred. Finally, I picked the one whose website mentioned both parental alienation and false allegations, left a message on their after-hours line. Then, on a whim that didn't feel like a whim at all, I opened the app for our security system. I'd installed the cameras last year after a break-in on the next street, one above the front door, one in the tiny hallway by the kitchen, one in the back by the patio. For months they'd just been background, a little blue light in the corner of my eye. Now they felt like witnesses. I scrolled through the clips, half expecting to find nothing but footage of packages being dropped off and Noah sneaking extra snacks. For a while, that's all it was. Then, about 2 weeks before the intervention, I saw Kim's car pull up in front of my townhouse at 10:13 a.m. on a Wednesday, a time when I was at work and Noah was at school. She got out, looked up and down the street, then walked to my front door with a key, my mother's key, the one I hadn't asked for back yet because I'd wanted to keep the peace. She let herself in, the hallway camera picking up the motion. I clicked the clip. There she was in my house, walking straight to the kitchen like she owned the place. She opened my fridge, my cabinets, my trash can, her lips moving like she was talking to herself. Then she went to the pantry, took out a half-empty box of wine I'd forgotten was even back there from a single book club night months ago, poured it into 3 empty bottles she pulled out of her purse. I watched, stunned, as she rinsed the bag, tossed it, and placed the newly filled bottles carefully in my recycling bin, lining the labels up so they were easy to read. "Are you kidding me?" I whispered to the empty kitchen, my hands gripping the edge of the table. I scrubbed back, watched it again, zoomed in on her face, the little smirk when she stepped back like an artist admiring her work. I found another clip the same day of her walking through my living room, picking up a throw pillow and tossing it on the floor, opening my laptop, typing something, closing it. My mind leaped to the threatening text screenshot, the one I knew I hadn't sent. I opened my messages, scrolled back to the night in question. There it was, the argument with Noah, my blue bubbles full of exhausted frustration but no threat. I scrolled further, looking for any sign of deletion or editing. Nothing. Then I noticed the screenshot Kim had printed had a tiny difference in the contact info at the top. My messages said Noah build cap, with a little emoji he'd added himself. The printed version just said Noah. No emoji, a new conversation thread, maybe from a spoof number. It hit me like a physical blow. They'd faked the messages, either from a different number or by editing them on some app, just enough that to a judge skimming a stack of paper it would look real. Oh my God! I whispered, my heart racing. The next morning the attorney called back. "I'm Lisa Coleman," she said, her voice calm, professional. "I got your message, sounds like you're in the middle of something complicated." I laughed a little hysterically. "That's one word for it," I said. I told her everything, starting with the family dinner and working backward, the CPS visit, the group chat, the way Noah had started quoting my mother back to me, lines like, "You know mom gets overwhelmed, just let it go," like he was reading from a script she'd written. I told her about the cameras, the wine bottles, the fake texts. She listened without interrupting, just the occasional hum, and the sound of typing. "Okay," she said when I finally ran out of words. "First of all, I'm sorry, this is a lot, and I know it feels like your whole world is tilting right now, but you did the right thing by documenting. That's going to help a lot. Second, you are not crazy and you are not alone. People do wild things when they want control of a child and sometimes a house or money that comes with that child, especially when there's a history of someone being the scapegoat and someone being the golden child, which you just described to a T." The word scapegoat made my eyes sting. "What do I do?" I asked. "They said they're going to court, they have stuff." "They have allegations," she corrected. "What you have is evidence that they fabricated some of those allegations. Here's what we're going to do. I want you to send me every screenshot, every video clip, every message. Don't curate it, just send it all. I also want you to start a log, dates, times, interactions, what was said, especially anything that touches on Noah or your mental health. We're going to get you ahead of this, not just reacting." "CPS," I said. "They already called once. What if my mother calls again, says I'm refusing help, now that she can say, 'We tried an intervention'? Then we show them the clips of your sister staging wine bottles in your recycling," Lisa said dryly. "And the messages about building a case. CPS has seen this pattern before, believe it or not. Sometimes grandparents weaponize their concern, sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not. Your job is to be transparent and consistent, keep the house decent, keep going to work, keep Noah in school and activities, and don't engage with them without some way to document it. No more private phone calls, got it?" "Got it," I said, my hand already reaching for a notebook. "What about Paul?" I asked. "My ex, he was there, he seemed conflicted, but he went along with them." "Is he easily influenced?" she asked. I thought about it, about our marriage, 10 years of him avoiding conflict until things rotted beneath the surface. "He hates being the bad guy," I said. "He'll go whichever way makes him feel like a good dad. Then we give him a path where the good dad thing is supporting you, not undermining you," she said. "Do you think he knows about the wine bottle stunt?" I thought of his face at the dinner, the way his eyes flicked to the floor when Mom mentioned CPS. "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me hopes he doesn't, because if he does, I don't know if I can ever look at him again." "Reach out to him," she said. "Ask to talk one-on-one calmly. Tell him what you found. Show him 1 or 2 key pieces, not everything, see how he reacts. Our goal is to split your opponents, not give them a reason to tighten ranks." Opponents. The word felt strange and grim, but accurate. That night, when Noah was at soccer practice and the house was quiet, I called Paul. "Hey," he said, wary. "If this is about Sunday, my mom." "It's about Sunday," I said. "But not your mom. Can you come by, please? I know you're probably sick of drama, but this is important, and I'd rather show you than tell you over the phone." He hesitated just long enough for me to think he'd say no, then sighed. "I'll be there in 20, he said. When he arrived, he stood in my kitchen like a guest, hands in his pockets, looking around at the same walls we'd once painted together when this place was supposed to be our fresh start. "I don't want to fight," he said, already defensive. "Me neither," I said, closing my laptop lid halfway. I just want you to see something, and then you can decide what to do with it. I opened the security app, pulled up the clip of Kim in my kitchen filling the wine bottles. I hit play and stepped back, watching his face instead of the video. At first confusion, then recognition, then something like nausea. Is that from your cameras? He asked, his voice thin. Yep, I said, popping the P, because I couldn't help myself. Timestamp, dated, all that good stuff. You can even see the reflection of the microwave clock if you squint. It's definitely my kitchen, definitely your sister-in-law, definitely 3 bottles of wine that I did not drink magically appearing in my recycling. He watched to the end, lips pressed together. Play it again, he said. I did. We watched her smirk again, watched her leave, closing the door carefully behind her. Oh my God, he whispered. Oh my actual God. There's more, I said, my voice flat. I pulled up the screenshot of the chat where Mom had written, once we establish a pattern, the judge will have to consider that she's unstable. Jen is good at pretending, but paper doesn't lie. And Kim had replied, that's why we need to document everything, even the small stuff, especially when she drinks. Paul read it, his face going pale. I thought they were just worried, he said, sinking into a chair. I mean, you do yell a lot lately, and Noah's been anxious, and your texts sometimes. Sometimes what? I asked, sharper than I intended. Sometimes you sound like you're hanging on by a thread, he said. And with your mom in my ear saying, she's not telling you the whole story, she's drinking more than she admits. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She's your mom. Because she's been rewriting my story since I was old enough to talk, I said quietly. I know you don't come from that kind of family, Paul. I know your mom actually means it when she says she's worried, but mine, she means, I'm worried I can't control this. There's a difference. He rubbed his face with both hands. Jesus, he muttered. Jen, I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. I never would have gone along with that paperwork if I'd known they were staging things. But you did go along with it, I said, the hurt peeking through. You sat there and let them talk about taking my son, our son, like I was some drunk they found in a ditch. He winced. I know, he said. And I can't undo that, but I can fix what I do next. Send me everything, the videos, the messages, all of it. I'll tell Lisa. You talked to Lisa too? I blurted, startled. He nodded. Your lawyer, yeah. She called me today, wanted my side. I told her about the yelling, the missed pickup, the text where you said you were losing it. She listened, but she kept asking if I'd seen you actually drunk, if I'd seen you put Noah in danger, and I had to say no because I haven't. He looked at the screen again, Kim frozen mid-pour. And now I know why your recycling bin looked like a frat house, he added bitterly. I'm going to call your mom, he said suddenly, reaching for his phone. And Kim, I'm going to. Don't, I said sharply. He stopped. Why not? Because they'll spin it, I said. They'll say I manipulated you, that the video is fake, that I'm turning you against the family. We're not going to tip them off, not yet. Lisa says sometimes the best thing you can do is let people keep talking while you quietly build your case. That's terrifying, he said, but there was grudging respect in his voice. So what, we just pretend nothing happened? We don't pretend, I said. We protect Noah, we limit contact, we keep everything in writing, and if they file something we respond with this. I gestured to the laptop. And with you saying under oath that you've never seen me drunk around Noah, that you didn't know they were staging evidence, that you regret participating in Sunday's little pageant. He flinched at the word but nodded. I'll do it, he said. Whatever you need, I'll do it. The next few weeks were a tense, surreal limbo. My mother alternated between icy silence and guilt-laced texts about how we can still fix this if you just admit you have a problem. Kim sent Noah TikToks about toxic parents and healing your inner child with captions like, you deserve better than walking on eggshells. Dave stayed mostly out of it, forwarding me a single message one night at 1:12 a.m. where Mom had written in the family chat, she thinks she's so smart, but nobody will doubt me over her, they never have. He added, I'm sorry, Jen. underneath which was something, I guess. Noah started therapy at Lisa's suggestion, with someone who specialized in kids caught in the middle of high-conflict families. Do you think I'm a bad mom? I asked him one night, after he'd come home from my mother's house looking wrung out. Because of the yelling? He shrugged, staring at the TV. Sometimes I don't like you, he said, which hurt like hell but was at least honest. But I don't feel unsafe. I just feel tired. Me too, I said. I'm trying to yell less, to walk away when I'm about to blow. But I'm going to mess up because I'm human. What I won't do is let anyone tell you that my mistakes mean you're better off without me. He glanced at me then, something soft in his eyes. Grandma says you're just like her, he murmured. That you'll never change. The words hit me harder than anything my mother had ever thrown. Do you think I'm just like her? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He thought for a long time, then shook his head. She never says sorry, he said. You do a lot. Eventually, the other shoe dropped. A thick envelope arrived by certified mail. Petition for temporary guardianship and custody modification. Mom's name and Kim's on the first page. My stomach lurched, but when I called Lisa, she sounded almost cheerful. Right on schedule, she said. Send it over. In the petition, my mother had painted me as a volatile drunk, unstable since the divorce, Noah as terrified and parentified, Kim as the saintly aunt and psychology major. 1 year of community college, dropped out, but why let that ruin a narrative? Paul as the concerned father who feared retaliation if he spoke up sooner. They attached the fake text, the CPS visit summary, a statement from Janet next door about frequent loud arguments and bottles in the trash. I wanted to crawl out of my own skin reading it. We're going to respond point by point, Lisa said. And then we're going to attach your exhibits, the video of Kim staging the bottles, the group chat messages about building a case, Paul's affidavit clarifying his observations, and, if you're willing, your own statement about your history with your mother and the scapegoat dynamic. Judges are human, they pick up on patterns. Do we have to drag the whole family tree through the mud? I asked, exhausted. They threw the first shovelful, she said. You're just showing the rest of the picture. The hearing was set for August, a month away. In that month, I learned a lot about what I could survive. Co-parenting with someone who was slowly flipping sides. Hearing my own mother tell anyone who would listen at church that I was unwell. Reading Kim's posts about breaking the cycle of generational trauma, while she actively tried to cut me out of my son's life. I also learned that I had more support than I thought. The therapist I saw twice a month squeezed me in once a week. My boss quietly shifted my workload so I could make court dates. A neighbor I'd only exchanged small talk with stopped me in the driveway one evening. Your mom asked me to write something about all the commotion at your place, she said, rolling her eyes. I told her there's more yelling coming from her house than yours, for what it's worth. I laughed until I cried after that one. The day before the hearing, Lisa called. What would you think about making them an offer? She asked. What kind of offer? You agreed to family counseling with Noah, she said. With a court-appointed therapist, not one of your mom's church friends. They withdraw the guardianship petition. We agree to some ground rules about contact, like no more anonymous CPS calls, no more surprise visits, everything goes through text or email. And if they violate it, we go back in front of the judge with that video on a big screen. Part of me wanted to say no. I wanted the judge to see the whole ugly mess, to tell my mother in a courtroom that she was out of line. I wanted vindication. The 12-year-old scapegoat in me wanted someone with authority to finally say, it wasn't her, it was you. They won't take it, I said. They're so sure they're right. Let's see how sure they are when we attach the clip of Kim playing sommelier in your kitchen, Lisa said dryly. She filed our response with all the exhibits, and like magic, 2 days later, Mom's lawyer called her. They'd like to discuss a settlement, she said. Apparently, saintly grandmothers lose a bit of their shine when there's video evidence of them conspiring. In the end, we met in a bland conference room instead of a courtroom. Mom, Kim, their lawyer on one side, me, Lisa, and Paul on the other, Noah at home with a sitter, which was a blessing. I don't think I could have handled him watching this. We didn't mean for it to go this far, Mom said, dabbing her eyes when Lisa slid the USB drive with the video across the table. I was just scared, Jenny. You know how you get. You fly off the handle, and I thought if we didn't intervene, something terrible would happen. Something terrible did happen, I said quietly. You tried to take my child. Kim crossed her arms. We were trying to protect him, she muttered. Maybe we went about it wrong, but your yelling isn't normal, Jen. You act like we made that up. We didn't have to fake the hole in your bedroom door. I put my fist through the door instead of putting it through a wall or a person, I said. Then I patched it, and I told Noah that sometimes adults have tantrums too and that it scared me as much as it scared him. I didn't hide it and spin it, which is more than I can say for you. Their lawyer cleared his throat. Emotions aside, he said, my clients are willing to withdraw the petition if we can agree that Ms. Harper will engage in individual therapy and family therapy with Noah, and that Ms. Harper's mother and sister will have reasonable visitation as agreed upon by Noah's parents. With conditions, Lisa said smoothly. No one calls CPS unless there is an immediate safety issue, not a raised voice, not a messy kitchen. We're talking physical harm, weapons, things like that. And if there is a call, they notify both parents immediately. No more anonymous games. All visits are at neutral locations unless Jenny explicitly invites them into her home in writing. And any conversations about Jenny's mental health happen between the adults, not whispered to Noah in the kitchen. Mom bristled. So we're just supposed to ignore the problem, she snapped. You are the problem, I thought, but bit my tongue. Instead I said, I am already in therapy, have been for a year. You're the ones who refused to go because you don't need strangers in your head. I will gladly keep going, and I'll take Noah to family sessions, but I will not sit in a room and let you two tag team me without a referee. Kim scoffed, but their lawyer nudged her, muttering something about optics. In the end, they signed, the petition was withdrawn, the guardianship form shredded, literally. I watched because I needed to see it. Noah stayed with me, our custody arrangement stayed the same, 60-40 with Paul, with a new clause about neither parent disparaging the other or their families in front of him. I wish I could say that was the happy ending, that my mother apologized, that Kim had some come-to-Jesus moment where she realized she'd almost ruined her nephew's relationship with his mom, that Thanksgiving was suddenly warm and full of healing. It wasn't. Mom sent a text that said, I'm sorry if you felt attacked, which is not the same as being sorry. Kim posted a vague meme about narcissists playing the victim when you stand up to them, which made me laugh out loud because if anyone in this story fits that bill, it's not the person who brought a USB stick to a settlement conference. Noah still sees them sometimes, supervised in a way that doesn't look like supervision, at football games, at the mall, at my brother's backyard barbecues. He's old enough now to form his own opinions, to notice when Grandma says one thing in front of him and another in front of Aunt Carol. He comes home and tells me about it, eyebrows raised. She really does rewrite things, huh? He says, and I say, yep. And we talk about how to love someone with boundaries, about how you can care for a person and still not let them hold the pen when it comes to your story. I'm not going to pretend I've stopped yelling entirely. I still have a temper. I still have days where the dishwasher breaks and a deadline looms and Noah forgets his cleats and I snap. The difference is I don't let anyone turn my worst moments into the whole picture. Especially not the woman who taught me to pretend everything was fine while the house burned down around us. Some nights, when the house is quiet and Noah's room glows blue from his computer screen, I sit at the kitchen table, looking at the faint outline where my bedroom door used to have a hole and the cameras quietly blink in the corners, and I think about that Sunday, about the circle of chairs, the clipboard, the way my sister's face lit up at the thought of finally having official proof that I was what she'd always said I was, unstable. I think about the 12-year-old version of me standing at the top of the stairs listening to my parents talk about what we're going to do about Jenny, and I wonder if I finally did something for her, if walking out of that house with my son instead of staying and begging for their approval was the first time I chose her side, not theirs. I don't know if I'll ever forgive my family, not fully, and I don't know if I should. Some days I feel guilty for blowing everything up, for dragging the manipulation into the light where everyone could see it, including Noah. Other days I feel like I dodged a bullet, like if I'd signed that paper, I'd be spending holidays alone while my mother told anyone who'd listen that the court took Noah because she just couldn't handle motherhood. So I'm going to throw this out to you. Internet strangers who don't know my mother's church smile or my sister's practice tears. If your family held an intervention to try to take your child, backed up by fake evidence and whispered phone calls, and you had proof they'd staged half of it, would you have done what I did, gathered your own receipts, brought in lawyers, and burned whatever was left of that shiny family image? Or would you have swallowed it all, stayed quiet, signed away your kid for peace, and kept pretending the people trying to break you apart were doing it out of love?